January 17, 1940. Winter light hangs low over a frozen European training ground. Steel engines idle in the cold. Inside armored hulls, breath fogs the air, and the smell of oil, cordite, and damp wool clings to the metal walls. A distant thud rolls across the fields, not yet a threat, only a reminder. Somewhere beyond the horizon, artillery is practicing a skill that will soon redefine the battlefield: speed. This moment matters because it foreshadows a quiet revolution in modern warfare. German armored doctrine entered the Second World War convinced that tempo belonged to the tank. Fast columns, rapid breakthroughs, carefully planned artillery schedules fixed to maps hours in advance. Artillery in this worldview was powerful but rigid. Fire missions were deliberate, adjusted slowly, and bound to prearranged plans. The idea that artillery could shift its fire almost instantly, responding to unfolding combat in real time, seemed impractical, even wasteful. Yet across the Atlantic, the United States Army was building an artillery system that treated time as a weapon. German tank crews expected predictability. They believed that once artillery fire began, its rhythm would reveal its limits. Barrages could be outweighted or outmaneuvered. A tank commander learned to listen to the cadence of explosions, to sense when a battery was lifting fire or exhausting its ammunition. Armor could exploit those pauses. What they did not expect was a battlefield where pauses vanished, where fire followed movement as if guided by sight rather than calculation. The shock came not from the first shells, but from what followed. American artillery did not remain fixed. As German tanks advanced, the explosions advanced with them. When formations halted, the fire tightened. When they attempted to disperse, the impacts adjusted, collapsing space itself. The battlefield no longer behaved like a map with lines and grids. It behaved like a living surface, responding instantly to pressure. This capability was not accidental. It was the product of a system refined through doctrine, training, and technology. The U.S. Army developed a flexible artillery command structure that empowered forward observers, often embedded dangerously close to the front, to call for fire and adjust it within seconds. Radio communication replaced runners and field phones vulnerable to disruption. Centralized fire direction centers calculated solutions rapidly, allowing multiple batteries to concentrate fire or shift it without delay. By 1944, American artillery units could mass the fire of dozens of guns onto a target and then redirect that mass elsewhere in minutes. Historical records confirm the effect. After the Normandy landings, German reports repeatedly noted the responsiveness of American artillery. One German armored officer wrote in an after-action account that U.S. artillery reacted faster than our own movement, turning every attempted maneuver into a risk. Intelligence summaries compiled by the German High Command acknowledged that American guns were not merely numerous, but coordinated to a degree that negated traditional countermeasures. Tank crews found that smoke screens were quickly penetrated by adjusted fire, and that withdrawal often triggered immediate pursuit by shells. The emotional contrast was profound. German tank doctrine emphasized initiative at the tactical level, trusting commanders to exploit fleeting opportunities, but American artillery erased those opportunities almost as soon as they appeared. Crews who expected to outthink static fire plans instead encountered a force that seemed to think with them and faster. Confidence built on experience dissolved into unease. The armored hull, once a symbol of dominance, became a confined space, amplifying fear as the whistle of incoming shells grew constant. That whistle became the recurring sound of the American system, a high, tearing note that arrived without warning, paused only briefly, then returned from a new direction. It was not the loudest weapon of the war, but it was among the most psychologically disruptive. The sound carried a message. Movement had been seen, calculated, and answered. American abundance was not only material, measured in guns and ammunition, but procedural, an abundance of options, of responses, of time compressed into seconds. Factual data underscores this abundance. By late 1944, U.S. Army divisions often had more artillery tubes than their German counterparts, supported by industrial output that ensured steady ammunition supply. Fire missions that would have required hours of coordination elsewhere were executed in moments. Studies conducted after the war showed that American artillery inflicted a disproportionate share of casualties on German armored units, not always through direct hits, but through disruption, forcing tanks to halt, scatter, or abandon positions under relentless adjustment. This experience transformed perception. German tank crews began to see American artillery not as a supporting arm, but as a dominant force shaping the battlefield. The traditional hierarchy, tanks leading, artillery following, was inverted. Ideologically, it challenged the belief that precision and discipline alone could overcome industrial scale. The American system demonstrated that democracy's strength lay in coordination. Thousands of individuals, trained to a standard, trusted to act, and supported by an economy that sustained their actions. The symbolism of the shell's whistle endures. Each adjusted impact represented more than firepower. It symbolized a society capable of rapid adaptation. Where German doctrine prized centralized planning and control, American artillery embraced flexibility within structure. Orders flowed quickly, but initiative at the point of contact was encouraged. The battlefield became a network, not a hierarchy. In the aftermath of engagements where artillery shifted fire instantly, German crews spoke less of enemy tanks and more of unseen observers and invisible calculations. The enemy was no longer just across the field, it was in the airwaves, the timing, the precision. Armor could not outpace a system designed to move at the speed of information. As the war drew on, this realization spread beyond individual crews to the broader understanding of modern conflict. Artillery, once the slow hammer, had become a responsive instrument, guided by human judgment and technological support. The whistle of shells marked the passing of an era where bravery and experience alone could dominate. In the end, the lesson carried forward. Freedom, as expressed through American military organization, revealed itself not only in ideals but in mechanisms, systems that valued initiative, communication, and shared responsibility. The instant shift of artillery fire was a battlefield manifestation of a larger truth, that abundance, when paired with trust and adaptability, reshapes outcomes. Long after the guns fell silent, the echo of that whistle remained, a reminder that the future belonged to those who could listen, decide, and act without delay.